All right, good morning, everybody. This is the second meeting now for the Master Educators and the Technnovation program. I just wanted to say hello, welcome you to the meeting, let you know that you can access the materials in your materials panel, and you can always ask questions in the chat, and I will do my best to respond to them. All right, and you can also help each other out if you know the answers and respond also in the chat. So, for today, I'm going to start off by thanking you all. I've been gathering all of your action plans, activity reports, W-8 or 9 forms, depending on if you're a U.S. citizen or not. If you're a U.S. citizen, you would be filling out the W-9 form. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you would be filling out the W-8 form along with a wire transfer form. And I think I have most of yours, but for those who I don't, if you could please get those to me, we will be ready to begin paying you as soon as October 1st or so. So last call for those forms. I will send a reminder to anybody who I notice has not sent me, or if I can't find someone. You'll have to excuse me because there's a high volume of emails around action plans and everything. So if something fell through the cracks, if I missed something, please don't feel shy at all about sending it back to me, putting it to the top of my inbox. And I will do my best to respond to all of your great activity and action plan reports right after this call. So if you haven't heard from me yet, you shall, at least by the end of this weekend. And I really appreciate your patience. I'm liking everything that I'm seeing. You guys inspire me on a near daily basis, and I'm really happy that you're all working together on this great project. So if you're also wondering who that woman is in the picture, she is the key to the secret question where I keep everyone honest and make sure that you guys listen to the whole thing and are just paying attention basically about what's going on. Does anybody have an idea of who this beautiful, fantastic woman is on the right? I'm not going to give away the whole secret because I want you guys to listen to the end about what my question will be. But does anyone know who she is off the bat? She kind of looks like a movie star in this photo. Normally she, in other pictures, she's looking a little different. Ah, Dorcas got it immediately. Yes, Grace Hopper, one of the big guns in computer history. Yvette asks, was she the person who cracked the World War II code? She was actually working in the United States, and she worked on lots of computers way back when in the 1940s that might have helped contribute to cracking code, but I don't have any specifics on that. She helped create a compiler for COBOL, which is a programming language, and she also did a lot of work on an early calculator called the Harvard Mark I. And we're going to get to the fun part later. But I just wanted you all, I wanted you all to start thinking about, her a little bit and thinking about great women in computing history. And I have Lorena to thank for the suggestion of Grace Hopper this month. So is everyone able to hear me? I know there's a comment that the volume is a little low. Okay. Ronald, you may just want to maybe try adjusting your volume. I think it's okay in general. I'm sorry if you can't hear me as loudly. Maybe I'll try talking louder. Okay, so last month I had you guys writing action plans, which outlined some of the goals, some of the milestones, some of the ways and steps that you would take to actually achieve those milestones, not just for your students, but also for yourselves. That's why I asked you all to write a mission statement for yourselves. And I've been enjoying reading over those. I think in the last meeting I kind of summarized them, so I won't go into big detail. And today we're going to be talking about what we're going to be moving forwards on. So the first steps in actually launching a Technnovation club. And one of the big milestones for that is going to be leading what we're calling a Technnovation launch workshop. These were formerly known as Girls Make Apps workshops. But now we're kind of rebranding since we're doing rebranding anyway. And we're redefining what we want both educators who will be known as mentors from now on. So there's some new wrinkles. One big thing is that we're not having coaches, but instead we're wrapping the role of coaches into, a general educator role. And we're calling coaches and mentors just mentors this year. And you guys are still really special. You're the master educators who are helping provide lots of input on our new curriculum. And I'm really taking a lot of your ideas, even if you can't see what's going on behind the scenes. I am taking a lot of your suggestions and your input and your insights and wrapping them into new materials. So I'm really excited about the curriculum that we're about to unveil on October 1st. We have a few units ready, more about that. And I'm super excited to announce our partnership with Google's Made with Code. So not only do we have new units, kind of a revision of the basic content, which has stayed kind of the same, but the way that we're having people engage with it is a lot better now, I feel. We're going to have a few pre-units that will be associated with Made with Code, and they will be not entirely similar to Hour of Code kind of tutorials, but a little foot in the door for students to get into App Inventor, to get them excited before the Technnovation season starts. So the big unveil will be this weekend on the 24th in New York City. There's a global citizenship event, and we're really excited to announce that. So I will keep you guys up to date in the Slack channel about all that's going on, because I would love for you to share that with your communities too. There's just so much going on. It's really exciting. So if the Technnovation team has been a little slow to respond to you lately, please don't take it personally. Just know that we've been really busy, especially other members of the team, trying to get the platform looking a lot better and trying to, unveil this new partnership. Oh, Michelle's going to the festival. Yay! I might be able to go too, Michelle, and if I do, I'd love to see you there, because right now I'm working out of upstate New York, and so I'm not far away. Yeah, I know. That's really exciting. I think they might have a live feed or broadcast, but don't quote me on that. But I will share any information I have about this festival and the unveiling. So are you guys all excited to start actually putting your plans into action? I am. Okay, moving forward. What we're going to talk about today are these updates, which I already started because I was too excited. Some trends I've been seeing in your action plans and activity reports. Going into questions about what a Technnovation club is, because this model existed before, but we want to kind of make the messaging a lot clearer on what a Technnovation club is. So you guys are going to be very important to that. Where I can talk a little bit about recruiting tips. I can let you in on resources that we've created for you. In fact, there's a whole folder in your materials section that includes that. We can answer questions about what a Technnovation launch workshop is, and I have some templates, and then talk about next steps. All right, so some of the things that I noticed in a lot, going across a lot of the activity reports were the stumbling blocks. And you guys, maybe you can take comfort in knowing that you guys have similar struggles, and I think I can take comfort in knowing that we're all going to work together to try to overcome these stumbling blocks. So some of them are harder. Some of them rely on the hardware. They rely on reliable internet connections. And I've seen some very creative responses to solving for that problem. Does anyone here have this exact problem? And if you do, I would love to just hear, what your problem has been and ways that you have tried to address that problem. Ayub says, yes, connection is a pretty bad problem. So I'm going to unmute you, Ayub. Hold on just a second. It's going to take me a second. Okay, hold on just a second. All right, I am unmuting you, and if you would like to just talk a little bit about the problem you've had with connectivity, that'd be great. Ayub, are you there? Okay, see if that works. All right, I'm gonna mute you again. All right, I will just describe what the issues have been. Um, the cost of internet is really high, Ronald says. Um, just like reliable connectivity is an issue. So some solutions I've heard to this have been from Afghanistan. For example, I know it's not like totally convenient, but bringing your group to an internet cafe at certain times. Dorcas says, same story in Kenya. The cost of internet is really high. So yeah, some creative solutions I've seen to that are, finding specific times that you can go to either an internet cafe or use, the one laptop that's available to you and stuff like that. So just really economizing on time and trying to source out what the least expensive internet options are. We do work a lot with Peace Corps groups, and I'm wondering if there's any way to tap into solutions they have. I know that they have thumb drives that they use for programming, I think, like Peace Corps on the Road, and trying to gather all that information onto a hard drive and kind of work not online whenever possible. I know that this isn't like a great solution, but it's a solution that some people have tried, and doing a lot of this stuff together in person without internet, if you as a mentor can help gather those resources and materials for your students and do whatever you can offline and then really plan out and save time for what you need to do online are some ways that we've addressed this. I know I'm only scratching the surface here, and if anybody wants to create like a connectivity channel for Slack, I would be pretty interested in hearing what some of the typical problems are and what some of your solutions are. Erica says, I wonder, working with the local government places to support these groups and letting them work in their offices using their internet. Yes. Erica, I've seen examples and everyone else of trying to connect with a company that's in your area, if there is one, and asking if there's certain times that the team can come in and use some computers, kind of like the idea of having a computer lab. So that's definitely one workaround. And there will be a fundraising webinar, and by which I also mean like development and how to go about asking companies for resources sometime next week. So I will talk about that, and I think this would be a great topic for that. Other stumbling blocks we've seen are simple safety for students. How do we get them to the location in a safe manner? Because sometimes the neighborhoods around there are not so safe, and parents are worrying about the safety. And that kind of ties into the getting parents on board. I do know that some of the student ambassadors are thinking a lot about this question and how to message this program to their parents and to other parents. So I know this is something we're all thinking about. And this year we're also working on parent resources and also even parent learning. So about internet safety for your children, that sort of thing. So that will be part of our new kind of content. And we do want you to know that we take it very seriously and that we are working on materials around this. Are there any other major stumbling blocks that you guys have who are on the call right now that you would like to bring up while we have each other here? As I mentioned, I know I'm only scratching the surface, but okay. Yvette says there seems to be a possible release of App Inventor to run locally. I hope that's true. Yvette put a link up there. Let's see. I hope that happens soon. App Inventor is definitely aware that people would love to have access to App Inventor on like a local server and not have to go through the cloud. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Even though we're designing mobile app solutions to problems, and that implies having connectivity, creating with technology itself doesn't always need to be online. And I know that App Inventor cares about that, and I hope they're seriously working on it. All right. Like this idea, plus, plus, plus. Love it. Another thing that Ayub mentions is sometimes we're like 7 or 8 teams in the same room and it's hard to have a stable connection. Yeah. So if everyone is sucking the bandwidth in one room, it's really hard. So some of that, might go back to the time management thing. If you know that having that many people online at the same time is going to be a drain, finding ways to meet at different times, even though it may not be as convenient for you, might be the best solution in the short term. All right, yeah, so as I mentioned, I would like to suggest that we create a connectivity channel for Slack. And if anyone wants to do that, you have my blessing. If not, I will do it later today. So do you guys generally think it's a good idea for creating parental kind of materials? I think that might help us a bit with getting buy-in from parents. They have to know that it's safe for their children to participate, that we have their safety concerns in mind. Yeah, cool. All right, whoops, I skipped ahead. So also, not to just mention the stumbling blocks, oops, Vivek says, can we get stats on regional registrations of mentors and mentees to help us gauge the reach? Right now, the way we have that information available is to regional ambassadors. So what I would suggest to you, Vivek, is connecting with your regional ambassador where you are and asking if you can get that information. We will have a webinar next Thursday at, I believe, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it would be like, this time next week, basically, to talk about how you can connect with your regional ambassadors and really get a lot of information from them. And I also called information on, responses from student, mentor, and coach surveys in this past year so that you guys have the inside scoop on what other people were struggling with, what they found great about the program. I feel like it's important for you guys to be armed with that information too. Vivek says, good, now I know what to bug him on. Vivek, your sense of humor is so funny. Okay, so to also just mention a few really great things going on. I saw that Togo is on TV. Woohoo! South Africa. Yes, that is so cool. Anytime you guys have something cool going on, just tell us all in Slack so we all know. We all need really nice things to think about sometime because when things get hard, you need that little light. So sometimes it's the little things and the big things, like being on TV and talking about all this stuff. Uh, for me, the exciting thing right now, as I mentioned, is our partnership with Made with Code. That is like seriously big. And they have been our champions for quite a while. And now our partnership is going to the next level. So things like that should all be celebrated. And I want to see pictures. I want to see all the good stuff going on. I did share on the Slack channel about the launch of the Technnovation platform, kind of redesign. Nice. Cool. We also have our first few units will be available starting October 1st. So you guys can begin registering your teams now. And the first few units will be ready in a couple of days, actually. So sweet. And just so we get into a rhythm, I wanted to remind you that the next report will be due 2 days before the meeting. And I know it's not easy to get it in on time, but if you can, that really helps me make more fun, more interesting meetings because I have that information to go on. Ronald says, a team of teachers has started to think about integrating parts of the Technnovation curriculum in other subjects like art, English, etc. Woohoo! Yes, one thing I love about this program is that you don't have to be a technology teacher to roll this out. You know, the truly great thing about this project is you can be in like any subject area and find some relevance, you know? Like, for example, I worked with a biology teacher in my last position to have students kind of analyze a problem about food. Actually, it was a food science class, and how to, you know, solve a problem in their community to create healthier food. So this is really important. The interdisciplinary thing is really, really great. All right, Yvette has been giving us some awesome links. I am going to, Yvette, if you could email me those links so that I definitely have them, because once we get off this call, I lose all the links from the chat. That would be great. Thank you. You're such a wealth of information, Yvette. Cool. All right. And I also wanted to mention that I'm going to have a mid-year check-in with you guys. So I know it's not easy for me to meet with you all one-on-one, but I'm going to do my utmost to make that happen right around the time of your Technnovation launch workshops. And there will be, I actually have to make a note to create, you know, a place to register where and when all of these are happening. So we want to have information like that on our website so that people can see how active we are and also find out where they can go if they want to take part in a workshop. And the Technnovation launch workshops will be happening, as we hope, between October and January. So I'm making a note to myself. Create sheet for Technnovation launch workshop times. All right, so moving forward, yes, I'll definitely upload it to Slack. Some people seem to respond better to emails. Some people are more responsive on Slack. So I will send out important information through both email, like a mass email, and Slack. Good idea. So some of you have been asking and scratching your heads and been going, okay, what exactly is a Technnovation Club? We definitely had some things, some milestones that we wanted you guys to think about, which I thought could help. And but I've seen some questions. So I just wanted to review again the goals of the clubs. And I will respond to all of your action plans with your specific questions and responses to them. So I haven't forgotten you, and I'm definitely going to do that. But for now, right now, the goals of the clubs are really defining the learning environments and then the needs of your learning environments. That's why we asked you for a kind of a budget rundown for things you think you might need to actually make this club happen. So getting a clear picture of what your learning environment is and planning out, you know, some consistency for your teams is really important. Maybe creating a regular time and place to meet. If not in person, then I'll, you know, maybe catch up by email or other ways asynchronously. And really talking about those needs. Some of them revolve around, you know, the solid internet connection. So thinking about when and where that will all happen. And another thing that we're really trying to get you guys to do, because we think it's going to help, is connect you with a student ambassador to help make your club be awesome. And I know that I've connected a few of you, and I know that I still have to connect others. So that's another to-do for me very soon. So by strengthening the Technnovation community, we mean, you know, finding that student ambassador that I'll connect you with and talking to them about their perspective about what they would like students to walk out of a workshop feeling like. The student ambassadors have a really good finger on the pulse of what other students want and need and how they want those students to feel and what they want them to have accomplished after these meetings. So they will be pretty key. And feel free to use, the random channel, just channels in Slack to connect with them because they like to use Slack too. And one of my primary goals is to ensure quality across the program. Someone's asking, where can I find info about our student ambassador in the area? That's something I'm going to be doing for you guys, Erica. Yeah, so if there's far fewer student ambassadors than there are master educators, so this might mean that I find you a local team to kind of buddy up with so that you guys can get the student perspective. The same thing will go with regional ambassadors. So we're still waiting from MOUs or memorandum of understandings from our regional ambassadors so that we can identify who is sticking around this year as a regional ambassador. And we should have all that information within 2 weeks. So my apologies that it's been a little slow in coming. The slowness in part comes from the response rate of the regional ambassadors and the fact that we recently made this partnership and, our wheels have been spinning trying to make that happen. So 2 weeks, you can expect that. Angie asks, if there are no student ambassadors for a region, can we designate a successful student from last session? Yeah, that's fine with me. Especially, students working this year or, roping someone in from last year who is great. Usually one student always bubbles up to the surface who's been really great to work with, and you probably all have someone like that, so that's fine. Hi, Isen. No worries about being late. Okay, so as I was mentioning, I really want to ensure quality across Technnovation clubs, across the learning experiences. I kind of observed a few launch workshops last year. They were known as Girls Make Apps. And I noticed that even though people were teaching them in different ways, sometimes the goals that I would have had were not necessarily met. So I wanted to just provide you guys with a template for launching a Technnovation launch workshop. So we'll talk about that in a bit. And also just create capacity for expansion, so to set the stage for some success down the road, to leave a legacy in your community that is known as a Technnovation club so that people, hopefully you'll be there next year too, to help pass the torch to the next educator, the next students. So those are my goals. A few of you asked, well, what does this actually mean? That's a great question. So here are some things I kind of put together. These are some things you can aim for, such as, having 5 teams. That could mean 25 girls at each club. Not just having, girls there, but sometimes inviting key members of your community to come in and talk about certain subjects. So I'm going to add, inviting members of the community to guest visit, and talk about certain things. Giving them some consistency. So some of the feedback we got last year was, we loved our mentor, but the mentor couldn't really commit to a regular amount of time with us. And sometimes I know it's hard for everybody to make a solid kind of meeting plan, but as much as you can be consistent to them, it will really pay off. So Lidette is asking, how many student ambassadors could we have? One from a country or one for a school? Lidette, usually we have one per country right now because we only have about 20 student ambassadors and there's about 40 of you master educators. So I think in your case, we're going to need to find you and I can help connect you with a student, or if you know of a student from last year who was really great, you could reach out to that person to be your kind of go-to student. And Angie says, yes, mentor retention rates. Yeah. So, yeah, we know that this is a huge and serious commitment on your parts. And we also want to retain you guys and give you what you need so that, you can help pave the way for someone else to eventually step into your shoes and make that transition really smooth. So, what else? Having office hours might be cool. You don't have to necessarily do that in person, but you could do it. You could say, all right, everybody, join me on my Slack channel at this time with your questions, or email me, or use Twitter, some kind of way to get people to just kind of virtually meet at the same time and just ask questions and check in. Checking in with them. I'm going to add that. Checking in. We all sometimes lose sight of the fact that, everyone's all busy. And sometimes you just need to check in and take the barometer of how people are feeling. Like, are they hitting a wall at this certain point? Are they, what are their needs? Sometimes teams don't know how to ask for what they need, so they might need for you to ask them, what do you guys need? Simple things. A successful club for me would have that Technnovation launch workshop, which is like 4 hours long. It's like starting the season with a bang, getting everyone excited, stuff like that. Connecting mentors who you might not know yet, who have signed up, and getting all the students together and connecting them and ensuring that they meet and that they get started. Oops. Oh, bye, Yvette. Thank you for sending us the app inventor stuff, and I will be sure to share that with everybody. We talked about support during the season, so that was kind of what I was talking about, checking in, taking the barometer, and then also helping to organize a pitch event, because even though teams are all going to be submitting a video demo and pitch this year, having a live event really is exciting, and it really helps give some sense of accomplishment to the students. So celebrating, I'm going to add that too. Helping to celebrate and helping to debrief. A lot of feedback we had in the past was students either took part in a pitch event or they submitted their video. Okay, yeah, they got feedback online, but they felt like it was a bit of a black hole after. So letting them know that there's opportunities to pursue their ideas after. We're trying to beef up our alumni program and give them more opportunities to continue with Technnovation beyond this competition. One thing I love that Lori has mentioned in the past was, well, how do we define the competition versus the program? And for me, it's a program because I don't just want it to end with the competition. I want this to be a lifelong learning experience and a life experience for them. And I want them to continue thinking about how they could make adjustments or improvements to their ideas, other ways they could integrate technology into their whole idea. Maybe it doesn't just end with an app afterwards. Maybe they go on to do some 3D printing around some element. Maybe they help turn their app into a service idea, like taking it steps further and really connecting them with their communities. So I'm going to be counting on you guys to debrief with your students, and we're going to talk about that more when that time comes. For now, I put together a list of resources, and you can't click on it now, but if you go into this presentation and you click on the word resources, you'll see flyers that we have for you, business cards that you can fill in yourself, our new logo, the style guide, and also the program survey results that I mentioned. We should have a report that we want to launch on the 24th or so about summarizing, 5 years of Technnovation, what some of the top level comments are from our evaluators, stuff like that. So I've been working on gathering that stuff for you. Oops. Okay, so just to give you an example of an action plan, I hope Tim doesn't mind, I just chose one randomly, and I wanted to go over this with you in case you have not yet submitted your action plan. I will definitely need your action plan, before you get your first installment of your stipend. So just so you know what one could look like if you haven't done it, we talked about the goals. There's a template for that. It seems like a lot of people kind of kept the goals that I laid out in the template. What I was hoping for, and you can see here, are other goals. So if you can add your own goals, in this case, add value to Australian search for the next tech girl superhero. I'm going to zoom in. Thanks for that idea. Did that work? Oh no, it's zooming out. Sorry. You guys can all look at this on the presentation. Let me see if I can also present it. Okay, is that bigger, better? Hopefully. So the goals that I laid out include, co-leading a club, recruiting, retention, helping to lead Technnovation launch workshops and pitch events. Oops. Are you guys all seeing my big screen? I don't know if I can actually make it bigger right now, but I can just talk this through and you can look through the presentation. So the things that I liked about this example were that, he obviously had his own goals too, and I want to know your goals. So in his case, it was, tying Technnovation into a next tech girl sort of thing in Australia. I know that Jody in Australia also wants to tie in Technnovation to kind of in-class stuff around a whole new curriculum, like a IT curriculum for Australia. So she is linking, elements of this program into a whole plan for her school, which is cool. Milestones include setting up. Okay, these don't look a lot different. But I want you guys to have your own personal milestones too, and to think about your mission. So in this case, this particular master educator wants to recruit more students of a certain age range in his school. And I like that. Thinking about what gaps that existed before and where you can fill in some gaps in your school could be cool. So how will he know what success looks like? For him, it comes down to numbers and also retention. So at least 80% of students completing their entry. So not just, taking part in the competition, but seeing it through to completion. That's important. Other ways to gauge success that I've seen student ambassadors talk about are, maybe taking a survey of the students. Like, how did this program make you feel? Not just getting the numbers, but getting some more qualitative info, stuff that you can say, this had an impact. It made people feel more comfortable learning technology. All that stuff that we talked about in the Move Forward activity could be pretty cool. So you could do that Move Forward activity at the start of your season and then try it again at the end and see if any attitudes changed. So attitudinal shift is pretty cool too. And I know it's harder to measure, but I think it's worth trying for sure. Okay, and then you'll see that, ideas that he came up with for partnering with specific people, not only in his community, but who are master educators in a different part of the country. So, really connecting and making some solid research projects. Nice, that would be cool. Talking about best practices. Best practices are something I would definitely love for everybody to focus on. And, and then he also talked about how he would do it, like we're going to try Skype. So maybe Skyping with a class or a Technnovation team outside of my country, like in this case, Vanuatu and Australia. How cool would that be, So if you guys also wanted to create a channel for opportunities to connect with each other's classes, or if you have a particular person in mind, you could just like chat them on Skype, or on Slack. So, okay, and then also passing on learnings from the educator group to Janine, who happens to be his RA. So that's great. So I see here an interconnection between the master educator, the regional ambassador, other master educators. I mean, these are all great ideas that you may want to co-opt. I have nothing at all against co-opting a great idea. So, and to give you an example of how he filled out this grid, how is he going to measure success? What is that time frame? He also submitted a more detailed time frame, which I thought was cool. And then just tasks leading up to accomplishing those milestones. So you have this presentation, and you're totally welcome to look at it over and over and gather ideas from this example. Grace says the action plan is very detailed. I especially love the way the last question is answered. Yeah. I mean, the open-ended stuff that you guys are filling in is what really interests me. Like, I can give you milestones. I can tell you what we want from our end. And those are all great to accomplish, but I'm really interested in what you guys have to bring here because you guys have better ideas. You guys are on the ground working, and you're going to know. So definitely add as much detail as you want. Don't worry about it being too much for me. Okay, so onwards. So one thing I noticed that was cool in the Slack arena was that people were asking for specific club activities, like for App Inventor. And then in one case, Kathy in the Republic of Georgia said, "Hey, does anyone know if this is a good one?" That was cool. It was I think it was the the cat app for App Inventor, where you put a picture of a cat on and you swipe it or pet it, and it makes a purring sound or whatever sound you give it. That activity has been really fun to get people interested in App Inventor. And you can find any picture of a cat, and you can make it make any noise, like a lion's roar. There's a way to have fun with this stuff. So having it be fun. If you guys have specific activities that you do, I would love for you to share them in the Slack channel, just so everyone can see them. And sharing them on Slack is important because, I mean, you can definitely send stuff to me and I'll process that, but for everyone to see it is really great. All right. Other things I noticed were people are looking for resources. So I began compiling a folder for this stuff, especially when it comes to outreach. So definitely use that resource folder. Use your business cards. You can get receipts for expenses you have for, getting these printed. And you're going to see in a minute that you can submit your receipts along with your invoice for your stipend and anything you have right now that we would approve, which is pretty, basic, you should do. So, wanting to connect with regional ambassadors and student ambassadors, that's on my radar, and I'm pretty sure I can do this within 2 weeks. So that's going to be important. Improving retention is very important, and we saw some ways. I will summarize again, some of the best practices that I've seen in your plans. So that's another to do for me, summarize best practices and share them out. And then connecting with local organizations. So if you haven't done it, I recommend going back to your Master Educator workbook and, revisiting that whole networking exercise. That's the whole reason I gave you that exercise. So figuring out what local organizations you can partner with that you might not have already thought about. A lot of us, even I do this, I network with the same kind of people, and every so often I have to take a step back and say, who is missing from my network? Am I going for low-hanging fruit? Am I always interacting with the same people? How can I mix things up to make my network more interesting and diverse? So, any questions there? Any kind of things that you noticed about action plans or any questions you still have? All right. I will wait for questions to roll in. Until then, I will move forward. I really appreciate your action plans, and I am going to be responding with individual notes and sharing out with everybody the best practices. Grace asks, can we rework our action plans? Sure. If you want to see this as a living document, I would be happy for you to do that. And then any updates you might add, you can just add to your monthly report. So that would be cool. Yeah. So yeah, if you're feeling like, you might have like rushed through your action plan, you still just email me and say, I'd like to work on this a little more. I'm not going to give you points off or something. So Lynette asks, does each school need to have the letter of agreement or commitment to set up a Technnovation club in their school? Good question, Lynette. So recently when we've been talking with Spain, especially, or European countries, we've learned that there has to be some kind of nonprofit or setup that's a little different than how we're used to dealing with. So I'm definitely going to address that question during our webinar about fundraising and about, working on local resources. So that's another note to myself. Letter of commitment to set up Technnovation Club. I mean, one thing I can say is that we would like to not be so involved with the legal sort of matters in every country because they're different everywhere. Yeah, Lorena just said, yes, some legal entity behind the clubs. So we're going to have to problem solve together a little bit on that. And Madhvi, who's our senior director, will have better ideas than me right now because she's been working with regional ambassadors for a longer time. Okay. So do know that that's on my radar, and I know it's getting more urgent for you, and we're going to address that at the webinar next week. Lydette says, I also have one that is not really formal, so I think that may still work for me. Yes. If actually you want to share that with me, Lydette, and I can see if I can come up with a template for you guys by next week, that would be really cool. Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to try at least to answer your questions now. If I don't have a great response now, I will work on it. Cool. Thanks, Lydette. Okay, so because we're kind of wrapping it up, I just wanted to talk about stipends and expenses. So I found out today that we can start giving you guys your stipends, or at least part of them, October 1st. Hooray. So I think I have most of your forms, but if you did not send your form to me and you want to get paid, then I would do that pretty soon. So in the presentation, you can click on these links and get those forms. Housekeeping is always really fun, isn't it? Expenses. So as I mentioned, you're getting a stipend, which is $2,000 over 2 years. And so we're going to give you that in installments. The first one, I believe, will be $500. So I created a template for you guys, which you can also link to, which is in your materials. I cut and paste the kind of screenshot of that here. And the first line item you'll have is your Master Educator stipend, first installment. And then below that are empty spaces for you to put in things that you had to get, like business card printing, whatever. List your items and also send me, either scan in your receipt or send me a picture of it for that item. And if you have expenses that you incur after you submit this, just hold on to those and submit them with your next invoice, which will be sometime, early spring or so. And if it's really urgent, let me know, and then I'll see what I can do. The reason that I'm trying to get you guys to submit these things together is because it costs us actually quite a bit to send out wire transfers. So we want to do as few of them as possible. So I realize it might not be as convenient, but we just want to make sure that we can give you your stipends and make it also efficient for us. Okay, and also some of you asked, well, what will Technnovation reimburse me for? And things like printing of flyers, business cards, other basic costs. Those could include, getting simple, like getting an Android device so that your team can test out the app in real time. If it's a really expensive cost, do email me because I'm not sure how far we can go with that, and I wouldn't want to promise you something I couldn't give you. So that's all that. The way that these will be processed, because we're bureaucrats, is that you will invoice Iridescent, and I made you guys that template that I took a screenshot of. When you go back to this thing, you can click on the template, and it will be there for you. I put in red font things that I need you to fill out, like your name, your country, the date. If you can make sure that those aren't red when they get back to me, that'd be cool. It's just a reminder. Then turn that whole document into a PDF and put your name on it, and email the invoice and receipts to me. The receipts are something that we all have to do at Iridescent, so it's not that we're calling you out or anything, but we're just going to need those. Erica's asking, will the reimbursement cover short trip costs to promote Technnovation? I think it depends. I think we can cover pretty basic costs, but if you're thinking of like chartering an expensive bus and things that are more extravagant than we can afford, you should definitely run that by me before. If it's like a short trip and it's a really not expensive cost, like let's just throw something out there, $50 to get subway tokens, to get bus passes, whatever, I think that's okay in general. But reach out to me if you want to like charter a bus or get something that would exceed, $100 or something. Okay, so enough on that. I will send reminders. Okay, now we're getting to the part where we talk about the secret Easter egg that I embed to make sure everyone has looked at things. And I'm wondering, so you all know the term bug, right? Debugging an app. So true or false? Did Grace Hopper coin the term? Does anyone know? And this picture is an actual moth that was found in a Harvard Mark I relay in 1945. This is Grace Hopper's handwriting. First actual case of bug being found. Okay, see? Gene Technity, you are not that old to have found a bug in the Mark I. Unless you were, 20 years old in 1945, I don't think so. All right, so you're all thinking true? Oh, Grace, haha. All right, I get it. You guys are smart. True? So everyone thinks this is true? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ruin your day. It is not true. Yes, she did find a moth in the Harvard Mark I relay, and that is the moth. But to be honest, the term bug, well, okay, yes, the physical bug is there, true. But the term bug, for all the word nerds, came a lot earlier, and it usually means a monster or, something that's presenting a snafu in a technical solution. And if you Google this, you'll see even that Thomas Edison was quoted as using the word bug in the late 1800s. But I think this can definitely attest to the sense of humor of engineers. And anytime you can add fun stuff like this to your learning with your students, it would make my heart feel warm. All right, so for all the people who aren't here, I'm going to ask them to say what the Easter egg was in this presentation. And thank you, Lorena, for the suggestion. Bugs. All right. So just a few things before we wrap up. What I would like for you guys to be doing for our next meeting on October 20th is to seriously start mapping out what your launch workshop is going to look like and when you're going to host it in your Technnovation club. I don't have the actual template for you to use yet, but I will create it today and send it after this meeting. I'd like you guys, once you have this, I'm going to summarize this again in an email, to work in your small teams that we created last time. I hope that went well. To just look at each other's plans and talk, because I can't give you all the individual attention you all need and deserve, but I can try to at least get you guys to work in smaller groups and cross-check each other's work, make sure you're asking some good questions, sharing it, incorporating that feedback. So if anyone, had a problem reaching out with their team, let me know and I'll see what I can do. But these are the groups again, just to remind you. I won't list them all because it would take forever, but just let me know if that process didn't work so well for you last time, and I'll try to find an alternate solution for you. But I would like for you to do that again, and then to send these to me by October 14th. I'm going to give you guys more time than I did for the action plans because a bunch of them, to be honest, came in a little after the deadline anyway, and I don't want you all to be stressing out. If you can get them to me earlier, that'd be great. All right. The next meeting, you know what? I was going to include information on the workshop. I just want to briefly go over this with you, and I don't have imagery right now, but if you come see the recording later, I'll have that in the next recording I do that I'll share out. The launch workshop is typically 4 hours, and there's 2 parts. So the first part is usually brainstorming a problem in the community with your teams and leading that part as master educators, because you guys are really well suited to do that. And working on a paper prototype of a solution to that problem that would become a mobile solution. And the second part of that workshop, after you have lunch or something, is to have one of the student ambassadors or students especially help lead the part about learning a little bit about App Inventor or whichever platform or software you're going to be using this year. So more on that to come. I will send you the template and I will send you 2 solid examples of those 2 things so that if you don't have any ideas, if you're struggling to find ideas, you can use those as your backbone, all right? Any questions about that? Does anyone, I noticed, I think, Lidette, did you lead already a kind of like launch workshop or something like that? I've seen people already begin leading, just kickoff sessions with teams and stuff. No, not yet. Okay, maybe I was confusing that with something else. I do feel like there has been some activity already based on action plans and stuff. So at our next meeting, we'll definitely talk more in detail about this, and I'll give you materials between then and now. I'm working on it so far, Amy. Sweet. Thank you, Lidette. Abe says, should we make girls subscribe in the first workshop and give an explanation? Here's what I would do, guys. I would try to meet with whoever is expressing interest in your region. You can get that info from your regional ambassador, or you can ask me if you need help. Get those people together by email. Let them know that they should be registering. Usually we'll know because they did register. But if you have teams of girls that want to register, I would recommend getting them to register now and form a team, and then have them meet at a Technnovation launch workshop, which is, probably going to happen between October and January. So you guys still have time to think about this, and I don't want you to stress it right now, but I do want you to start thinking about what this kickoff workshop would be like for your Technnovation club. All right. So we talked about the groups. Can you guys let me know, just by a quick chat or whatever, how did you think that it was effective to work in a smaller team? Because I'd just be interested in knowing. I can also send out, a little poll that's more anonymous. I'm gonna also put that on my to-do list. I don't want to give you guys a lot of extra work, but I would like to know, if this process is working for you guys. Okay. All right. So wrapping up, we have a fundraising webinar coming up next week. So exactly a week from now on Thursday, which is the 29th at 12 p.m. And you can click on this link to register for that. A lot of you had really great questions about how do we reach out to companies, what is the Technnovation ecosystem like? How do we message properly? All those questions will be answered at that meeting, at that webinar. So if you can't come, there will be a recording, but it's not as fun because you can't ask your questions live. So, and if you do have questions and you can't come, you can email me and I can make sure they get responded to. So what you guys should be doing is, recruiting at this point, trying to find teams to populate your club with. The activity report will be due on October 18th. That should be 2 days before the next meeting, which is on the 20th. And, whoops, oh no, I jumped ahead. You can either register for the 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because I'll be back on the West Coast then, or, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard. So roughly the same time options that you had this time. Any other questions? Angie asks, is this webinar on Slack? I will put a recording to the webinar on Slack. Yep. And I'll also email it out because I've noticed some people are just not into Slack. So, anyone else has to manage a conflict of interest for fundraising as a corporate? That's Vivek's question. Can you go into a little detail about that, Vivek? Do you mean like you're an employee at a certain company, but you're trying to reach out to other companies and you're worried? That's a good question. I'm going to add that to the webinar for next week because that gets a little bit into the nitty gritty that my colleagues know a little bit more about. Okay. I will note that. And let's see. I think that's it. I just want to say thank you for coming and for giving me your attention for a full hour. And please do engage by Slack with each other and with me, because it's good for everyone to see what the questions are and stuff in case they happen to have the same question. All right, I'm going to say goodbye for now. Be on the lookout for reminders, for making sure you get your forms in on time. I want to make sure that you guys receive your stipends. All right, everyone. I wish you guys could be here in person. I miss you. All right. Yes. Keep on Slack. Keep on slacking. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to tune out now. You guys are cracking me up. All right. Bye, everyone.